Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where in the world you are joining me from. I am 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐕𝐄𝐑𝐒𝐀𝐓𝐈𝐎𝐍, and this is the Crypto and Cognac podcast show, as always, Thursday, 7 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, right here, where YouTube live, with my yak. We're gonna try to finish this battle tonight as we talk about that crypto. Guys, I don't know about y'all, but this has been a week. I feel like it's that one person in the world who had a worse week or a more hectic week than me, right? That might be the done, right? I don't know whether it's reality or not, but whatever it was, whether it's real, whether they try to kill the man or not, he is having a hectic week. Crazy to see what is happening in America. I don't know if it's that serious, but I guess to some people it's that serious. I wish Uncle Donald all the best, all his safety. I hope that the Secret Service get their act together, either which way, because that is madness. But anyway, you, and me, we are here to talk about crypto, as always, with a drink in our hand, because us Caribbean people, we don't have these type of conversations dry mouth at all. So, cheers to you. And as always, housekeeping. This is not a financial advisory podcast. I am not a financial advisor or a financial advisory podcast host. So, nothing that I share here today, yesterday, the week before, next week, should be misconstrued as being financial advice. I don't give it, you cannot receive it, right? This is all about the ICE rule. Information, conversation, education. You share with me, I share with you, and hopefully on the other side of that, we have a little bit more know-how about this crazy cryptic world of cryptocurrency and blockchain than we did when we started. And as always, drink and degen responsibly, right? What are we talking about today? So, we had a few weeks of madness, right? The German government was selling off all their crypto, right? Things was tanking. Yo, Eddie, what's up? Steven, what's up? The German government was selling off all their crypto. They decided that, you know what? All this crypto that we've seized over time, we need to get rid of it. Smart decision? We don't know. Wise decision? We will see. But already 1 week later, we are seeing that it wasn't the best decision, right? That led to the market tanking. I think we went all the way down to 54,000. And then we recovered, right? We've seen some very bullish news. One, the Donald was not unalived. He appointed his VP, Mr. J.D. Vance, who is or who has shown himself to be a Bitcoin advocate. He holds Bitcoin in his investment portfolio as per the information that he has to declare to Congress. So that was some bullish news. We saw the market start ticking up the other direction. I myself got out of some longs way too early. Could have made way more money, but unfortunately, I gotta be satisfied with the stats that I was able to stack, right? But we are gonna talk today about whether or not this last set of movement, we've already seen a little correction, but whether this last set of movement is taking Bitcoin price action to a place that is a little bit more justifiable, or whether or not we have a more significant correction looming on the horizon. And we're going to take a little stab at the technicals to show how people are looking at it, and to maybe give you guys a little insight into some of the tools that are used across the industry to identify the appropriate price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, right? So obviously we have to look at the current price, right? The current and recent price action. So is Bitcoin in an uptrend? Is it in a downtrend? Is it trading sideways? I think that is always a significant starting point. Obviously, the major TA people, they like to talk about moving average. They want to talk about the 50-day moving average. They want to talk about the 200-day moving average. And basically, that's exactly what it is, right? So we look at the price of Bitcoin at the close of business every single day for the last 50 days. We divide it by 50 and we get the average moving price of Bitcoin over the 50-day average moving price. We do the same thing for 200 days and we get the 200-day average moving price, right? It doesn't take a scholarly mind to figure that out. Now, some of the considerations, because people might see different moving averages across different platforms, and it has to do basically with where or what time of day are people using to determine the close of day, because we know Bitcoin trades 24/7, 365, 366 on a leap year, all day, every day, right? The market never closes, unlike some of the traditional trading markets, like the stock market, for example. Most places, most technical analysis websites, persons use the UTC 0000 time to determine the end of day. So we basically start at 0 UTC, and that is where the daily price is calculated, and there is what is used to determine the 50-day average or the 200-day moving average, as the case may be, right? Another thing that people use to determine whether Bitcoin's price is appropriate is that of the RSI, or the relative strength index. And this basically measures how fast or how much Bitcoin price has moved up or down in the recent time, right? And generally, when the RSI is above 70, it's considered to be overbought, right? Meaning the price is too high. And then when it is under 30, it is considered to be too low or oversold, right? So generally, when it's overbought, you can expect a little cooling, so price correction. When it is oversold, you can anticipate some price movement in the positive or movements upwards, right? People use, especially people doing TA, they use the support and resistance levels, and that just basically means the ceiling and floor of where Bitcoin price movement is expected, or where perceived sell points or buy points are, right? So the floor is where it would usually stop the falling price, because people will perceive that that is a good purchase price, and because of that attention, because of that volume that believes that price to be a good purchase price, usually you find a rebounding from there, right? So usually that is how the floor is determined. I'm trying to explain this in the most basic way possible. So guys, tell me if I'm doing a good job or if I'm doing a horrible job. If you're not understanding, just shoot me a line in the comments. And then obviously resistance is where people will perceive as a good point to take profit. So usually a lot of sell activity happening at that point, which obviously cools whatever accumulation would have been taking place. People start taking profits and we see the price start moving back down. So in the TA world, they use support and resistance. Usually you will hear people talk about breaking out of the resistance or breaking out of the support. And usually when you break out of a resistance range, that resistance point now becomes the new level of support that is expected, because it stays in people's minds in terms of being a point of either good value for buyers or good value for sellers, right? So usually your resistance becomes your support as we move upwards. And similarly, when you break down under the support level, when it's time to get back above the support level, that support now becomes a level of resistance, right? A lot of people might hear about Fibonacci retracements, and basically this just shows the potential where Bitcoin price might reverse direction. And there are different levels. This is all about mathematical sequencing. And honestly, I don't really get it, but a lot of people in the TA space use it. And then obviously people are checking things like on-chain metrics in terms of the level of activity on chain, whether people are moving Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies from their cold storage wallets onto exchanges, whether people are moving from exchanges into cold storage, and those things tend to give an indication of what is to come next. The level of activity on the blockchain also gives people an indication of the confidence around the token and where it might go. We look at, volume analysis. So for example, high volume, either which direction would show a level of confidence or lack of confidence in the potential move. So if you see high volume as it relates to price moving up, that's usually indication that there is strong conviction about the price continuing to move up. If there is low volume but you see the movement up, you should see that as a sign of low conviction. And the reverse is also true, right? And then sentiment indicators. So for example, fear and greed index, excuse me, which I'm going to touch on in a little bit. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of those charts. I personally am someone who I don't do a lot of heavy trading, but when I do, I am primarily looking at the sentiment, because I always feel like the charts tell you what the sentiment was, right? So what the sentiment is eventually reflected on the price movement that you see on the charts. So I try to take front before front take me. So sentiment analysis is one of the major things that I use. So if coming off of, for example, the German government selling their crypto, I waited and waited and waited. I was looking carefully for when that is going to stop, because I think that was I don't want to call it a black swan, but it was something that is not a daily market occurrence. That was a unique instance that was taking place. So I was looking for whenever they ran out of Bitcoin to sell, and that is when I would have put in my longs, right? Like I said, it did benefit me, but I got out way too early. I didn't think that we would have blown through 62 like we did, but eat little and live long. That's what they say, right? I'm going to show you guys a tool that I use just for kind of tracking all these things in terms of the market, in terms of RSI, BitBoo, right? I have the free version because I'm cheap, but this is where I track live live market conditions. I also use them to track, for example, I'm going to share it now, fear and greed index. Yeah. So here I would use their charts to track fear and greed. I don't know if you guys can see here, but we just recovered from a point of, I would say, some fear. Here we were in a period of greed, and then we started falling. Right now we kind of, I guess, midway. There is some greed. I guess there is some bullishness in the market. But again, we are in a bull cycle. So obviously the dominant feeling, the dominant expression, is greed. Yeah, as Eddie is saying, we do have 142 thousand BTC coming available from the Mt. Gox settlement. That is going to be another, I would say, black swan event in the midst of this bull run. I don't know how many of those holders are gonna hold on to their Bitcoin. These are people who would be significantly in profits. But I mean, if they've seen the growth over the last 10 years or so, I think they might continue to be bullish about what the future opportunities are. So we don't know what that is going to do to the market. Is that going to be bought up significantly? And then even on the back end of that, we have some FTX settlements still to happen. So how does that affect the fear and greed index? How does that affect the price action? And I just want to show you one other chart that I use from BitBoo or BitBo, however you want to pronounce that. That is the RSI chart. And this is a live RSI chart as well. So you would see that we are still on the low end, not quite under the 30 where we are oversold. We're starting to tick back up, but not anywhere near to the 70, which is overbought. So I think there is still some room in the market for some growth. I think there are still a lot of bullish things happening. For example, Trump, former President Donald Trump, current Republican nominee Donald Trump speaking at the Bitcoin conference. We have not Jamie Dimon, Larry Fink, having a complete 180 on his view of Bitcoin. The man went on international TV and literally said, I was dumb. I didn't know what I thought I know. And I went away. I did my research and I love Bitcoin. Yeah. So if this was a full on, well, if we were near the top, that kind of news would have been on every single talk radio show, every single Bitcoin podcast. That would have been everywhere in the Google searches, and we would be blowing through 100K. So that's why I think, we're still in the early stages of the market. Just checking out what Eddie says here. Actually, you know what? So everybody can see the conversation. So he said, in my opinion, they couldn't access it when they didn't have custody, so I hope they wouldn't miss it when it arrives and hopefully won't sell it when they have control. Listen, You could never tell. People been waiting. Me, like you'll know, I am a very conservative investor. So if my Bitcoin was being held down by Mongo, I am taking some profits. I mean, I'm not taking nearly as much as I probably should, but even if it's 20%, I am taking some profits because I've been forced to hold for so long. Yeah, I'm gonna treat myself. I'm gonna go on a nice dinner. You know what I mean? Take my family on a little vacation. But yeah, we're gonna still keep majority of that thing in that BTC. So I'm not gonna begrudge anybody who gets their Bitcoin out of Mongo and they decide they're gonna take some profits. If they decide they're gonna sell it all, I can't begrudge them because they were forced to hold it. Um, Hopefully, I have some money in hand to do some buying myself and capture some BTC at an affordable price. I personally think that at the end of 2024 into 2025, we're gonna hit 100K BTC, and I don't think we're gonna see these kind of numbers again. Maybe in the next bear market, we see a correction down to these kind of numbers, 60,000, 62,000. But personally, I don't think so. 50% gonna get rinsed. I mean, I think we're gonna see a lot of speculation in the not the meme coin but the altcoin space. I think we're gonna see a lot of people who have made some money in Bitcoin look to move some of that portfolio into altcoins, whether it be large cap alts or meme coins for just total degen gambling behavior. Because remember, these are the people who would have been, I guess, considered the degens of the day. The people who would have been around back in those times. They didn't have the kind of awareness, or not the awareness. Maybe they had the awareness, but they didn't have the kind of support for their perspective about this market that we now have. Like we have JP Morgan and all these companies in the space, and giving us some kind of indication that what this thing has some legitimacy. We have ETFs, we have all kind of things. So these guys were the guys who were like crazy, hopped up internet speculators back in the day, who deserve every single cent of gain that they've benefited from for being involved in Bitcoin that early, for having that conviction that early. Like I said, I don't begrudge these guys any single cent worth of profits that they take. They deserve it 1,000,000,000% in my mind. So I just hoping that if they make it rain hard enough, I'm gonna have a few shillings, like Steven said, to back the truck up and accumulate a little discount BTC. Right? Where the market gonna go? Nobody really knows. What gonna cause it to go where it have to go? Nobody really knows. I don't think anybody had on their crypto bingo card an attempted assassination of a US presidential candidate in the year 2024 when we have camera phones everywhere. That's crazy to me. Camera phones, video cameras, they have tracking on every single person. I think every single alphabet agency probably watching this podcast right now. How the hell does someone get away with even the attempt? You tell me. So that wasn't on my bingo card. So I mean, I'm not making no kind of predictions for what is to come for the balance of this year and in the future, except that adoption is inevitable, right? And crypto is going to dominate the financial landscape in the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. The balance of my lifetime and then into my kids' lifetime, crypto is going to be the dominant financial instrument. That I'm putting my head out there and saying that is going to happen. So, guys, thank you so much for being with me for another week. I hope you all had a drink. I hope you all had a good week. We'll keep watching. We'll keep waiting. I'm going to make some notes. And next week, we're going to talk about it after the Republican convention, after all this noise around the Democratic candidate, all this pressure that the leading Democrats putting on President Joe Biden to step down and step aside. I mean, next week we might have a whole different set of talking points. The way things going, American politics moving as fast as the Bitcoin and crypto industry in terms of how things change directions, right? It might be the craziest thing I've seen in a while. 200K is sure. When? I know, right? But guys, as always, thank you for being with me. Thank you for sharing with me. Eddie, Steven, shout out to you guys. Guys, be blessed. Adoption is inevitable. 𝐿𝐿uminati out.